fables and sounds of the Nigerian stories. Àrọ́bá ní bàbá ìtàn. Bọ́mọdé ò bá tàn, á bá àrọ́bá. Nigerian Folktales. In the ancient times, way before Nigeria got her name from her colonial masters, the various tribes and ethnic groups had their different identities and ways of life. The Yorubas, the Igbos, the Benins, the Ibibios, the Hausas, and so on. But despite the differences in cultures, the values were the same across board. Togetherness, oneness, unity, peace, and serenity. In those days, people rarely bothered about securing their belongings because everyone was their brother's keeper. Honesty and integrity were the order of the day, and although there were disputes and misunderstandings, once in a while, they were amicably resolved by their elders or their traditional rulers. That was the way things were even in Hausa lands in the north until something happened one day. Once upon a time, in a small village in the Hausa kingdom, the people of this village knew everyone who lived there. Everyone was neighborly and visitors were warmly welcomed. These Hausas lived such a communal lifestyle that even in their marketplace, this was obvious. A trader could bring his or her farm produce or goods to the market square, leave it there and go to farm with the assurance that on his or her return from the farm, cowries await them. Cowries were the legal tender, the formal means of exchange in those days. It's like money that's been spent in our world today. Musa was one of the farmers who would often drop his kankana and other fruits at the market before going to farm. There were some days when the marketplace looked deserted because most of the traders were also farmers. Some of them were housewives who sold clothes and other commodities besides farm products. It's also noteworthy to know that these people were very religious, hence the deserted market on some days. It was on one of such days that an unexpected stranger entered the village. With the marketplace situated on the outskirts of the village, it was the first place in the village he explored. He saw many goods unattended to, fruits, vegetables, clothes, foodstuffs, and so on. He saw stones placed in varying numbers beside the items. 2 stones here, 5 stones there, 1 stone here and there. There were some form of price tags indicating how much each item is being sold. He seemed really surprised because he thought to himself,
"Are these people for real? How can they leave all these things unattended? These people must be gullible." Definitely, they are gullible.
So he took some fruits and ate to his satisfaction. And since he didn't see anyone coming at the time, he went to 2 other stores and stole other items. Then he left. In the evening, when the villagers got to their stores, some of them were greatly surprised by what they discovered. Musa was one of the traders who was affected. On his return, he noticed that his cowries were not complete, for the amount of fruits missing was not commensurate with the value of cowries he saw in his store. And so he exclaimed,
Wayo Allah! Hey! Someone has stolen from my store.
Maimuna, another trader who sells clothes in the market, exclaimed, What happened to my zanies? Meanwhile, earlier that day, Adamu, one of the village children on his way from Makaranta, thought he had seen a stranger along one of the paths leading to the village from the market square, but he couldn't tell his mother, Maimuna, because she might not believe him. Notwithstanding, the villagers somehow suspected that a stranger might have been in their village, but as commoners, their simple minds were quick to forget about the incident as the days went by. Unknown to them, this stranger had moved around their village and some other villages around theirs, observing and taking note of some things that were going to be useful information to him later on. At that time, these strangers' people resided in the desert lands surrounding the Hausa kingdom. He studied these villagers so much that when he went back to his tribe, he was able to tell them a whole lot about their way of life so that they could somehow blend in. This stranger turned out to be a staunch Muslim who was quite vast in the Quranic laws, and he was from the Fulani tribe. Gradually, over time, this stranger and his nomadic people, for they were traditionally cattle rearers, entered the villages in the Hausa kingdom in small packets. They were able to adopt the Hausa language and culture so much that a non-native could barely tell the difference between the Fulani and the Hausas. Indeed, it would seem as though these 2 tribes were sincerely in one accord, for they were both practicing Islam. But there were loopholes in the practice of the Quranic laws by the Hausa community that was later used as a major weapon by the Fulanis against them. I think the Malami's wife has just put to bed. Good news! The Malami's wife has given birth to a baby boy. Nagode Allah.
Alhamdulillah.
Nagode. Some years later, the stranger had a son who was named Usman Danfodio. Usman grew up to be a staunch Muslim like his father, and he became a famous preacher of Islam. He was a formidable force, a strong voice to reckon with, as he spoke strongly against the injustice meted to the masses by their rulers and the wealthy class. He firmly established that this was against the tenets of Islam, and by doing all this, Usman Danfodio realized that he had gained massive followership amidst the Hausa people. So he began to make strategic plans to overthrow the then reigning king. At that time, the reigning Sarki of that community was King Yunfa. Someone had informed him of the preacher's ploy to overthrow him. Therefore, he banned Sheikh Usman and began to arrest his followers, the Muslim faithfuls, because he felt threatened. In the heat of all these, Usman had to escape with some of his followers to another town not too far from where he was coming from. Then his followers immediately ordained him the Sarki Muslimi, also known as the chief of the Muslim faithfuls. The Fulanis, using the influence of Sheikh Usman Danfodio had cleverly and strategically placed themselves in important positions throughout the Hausa kingdom, so that when Usman finally declared the Jihad, the entire kingdom and their army were defeated and conquered by the Fulanis with the help of some Hausas who felt cheated by their rulers. King Yunfa was eventually murdered and overthrown by the stranger's son, Usman Danfodio, as he became the Sarki. The Fulanis established caliphates across the Hausa kingdom. This was how the coexistence of the Fulanis and the Hausas came to be in northern Nigeria, with the Fulanis dominating in most of the states in that region. An experience in history the Hausas never forget till date. The